I know you have a lot of ideas about the goals and the places that you'd like to go in the upcoming year. Every year, at this time, at this crossover time, it's usually a threshold that we cross to head into another section of our life. Isn't it amazing how fast the years are going by? I bet you can remember just yesterday certain events that happened in your life that just seemed like they happened in a flicker. Two things that we seem to want more than ever today are, number one, to be involved in our lives in a way that we've never been before. We are not on a quest to be happy. We're not on a quest of contentment. We are on a quest to feel involved in our life process. That we are involved in truly building on something that matters to us. That's number one. Number two is that we feel present. We feel we are inhabiting this moment, and we are able to be here, in this moment, now, without distraction, without our attention on worrying, without thinking about the past, without thinking about other people's judgments or their thoughts about us, without our thoughts about ourselves and who we think we are and our level of worth, nor with the future and our anticipation about the future. How do we get here? All the entrepreneurs I talk to, at the end of all the stories, at the end of all the things we talk about, at the end of everything that they want, out of everything that they have goals, at the bottom of it all, these two appear to be really, really important, is to have something in their life that guides them, that power flows from, something they want to create that deeply matters and organizes their life. It is the centerpiece from which everything radiates. And number two, that aim, that intention, that place seems to connect with the way they pay attention now. So as you head into the new year, I really want you to think about where, or the source, the place from which your goals are born. We say to ourselves, let's have a goal, let's have a place to go, but do we ever really think about the place where the goal starts? Why do we form a goal? We don't form goals just because we know it's right, or to please someone to know we're doing the right things, or have goals to solve problems, or to make up steps and mask them as goals. Goals are outcomes that we care enough to see exist. And a goal is a measurement by which it's a yardstick. It's a benchmark by which we can keep score. It's an aim by which we can keep score. And a goal doesn't need to be terribly clear. In fact, it can't be. A lot of the motivation that's going to emerge for you is going to be underway creating the goal. Motivation comes from the middle, not the start. But we have to look at what the source is. What is the place from which the goal actually begins? So let's say that I shape goals out of what I really think. Let's say I shape goals out of the concepts that I hold in my mind. And I have concepts and rules and dogma about the way the world works. So out of that, I'm going to tend to shape and cultivate my goals. Now the problem is I may set realistic and attainable goals because I'm trying to focus on what I'm familiar with. And this is very limiting because what I actually focus on, what may not be the subject matter that actually does matter to me. It's more important that I choose subject matter that matters to me instead of something that is familiar to me and reasonable and practical. Don't set practical goals. Set your attention on things that do matter. It doesn't matter how far or distant you are from those things. It's what they do to you. It's not what it is. That was a major lesson for me, was that goals are inserted to learn from. They're not inserted to avoid discouragement. They're sources of my attention. It's where my intention and my attention meet. Number two is I can originate goals from the heart or I don't. And I find that goals that are originated from the heart, in other words, we love something enough to cause it to exist, that's what leads to the levels of involvement I'm talking about. The first one, the mind, When we start letting go of all of our certainties about ourselves and about the world around us, we no longer anchor who we are or what we know to what we see, what we witness. Because goals obviously aren't here yet, right? They're outcomes that haven't been delivered yet in our life, and we have to consistently observe the true distance to our goals by looking at current reality. So by looking at current reality, unless I'm looking at it freshly and accurately, and I perceive it for what it is, my mind, if it's full of accumulation and conditioning and stuff, is going to lie to me about what I actually see. And if I don't know what I actually see, how can I see where I'm failing or what's not working, independent of my identity, independent of what I think of myself? Can I really observe what I see and make the adjustments needed out of the strategic choices that my goals demand me to make? Strategic choice. See, goals require a choice. They're not obligations. We don't have to create them. Your goals are not born out of obligatory action. Your goals are born out of things that you care about, out of your heart, what really matters to you. The third component is what we call the grand will. This is the soul's perception. This is inhabiting the soul. And rather than thinking about your relationship to a goal, how about thinking about what the goal is in need of you for? How about looking at it as there's a destiny that already stands somewhere out there, and it's in need of you to bring it into reality? You might sense something waiting in you to be born, something that you are pregnant with that wants to get expressed. It visits you from time to time. You can hear the voices. You can hear it when you're very, very still. And it's there. My guess is that there's not the vehicle set up in your life to have that expressed. You don't have the business that expresses it. You don't have all the other sections of your life that can make it come alive. That's going to happen as a function of you making a fundamental choice about becoming a more predominant creative force in your life. And when you do that, then the causal forces of your actions will connect you to this place, to that which you love enough to see exist. And that's when the soul is really at work. That what you have in you is called home by the urge that you have to just simply let life be lived through you, and you want what you want for its own sake. You don't have to answer why you want it. You just care a lot about it, and therefore you want to cause it to exist. Now we're talking from the soul. Why do you do what you do? Why do you move towards this? There's no fancy answer. There's no fancy in vogue mission or cliche or fancy statements or polished pitch that you could say. You just embody it. It's inserted and inhabited in who you are. You cannot not do it. You must get insistent about it. We're talking about your sense of purpose and living out what really does matter to you. So I am going to make a suggestion to you. If you want to get totally present and you want to help yourself be present as a symptom of something else, it's about creating something that does matter to you. Because in the creative process, you have to do two things. One, you have to keep and hold a picture that you care about, that you want to create. Power flows from there. It informs your decisions. And you have to know accurately where things stand in dynamic flexibility, where, as things are moving along, context is in motion, what the current view of reality is as you're bringing what you create into being. Those two capacities basically tell you where your next step really lies. Most of what you create is a function of learning from the future as it is emerging. You don't create from your experience, because experience often is the very thing that causes the problem or the hindrance to create what you want. You're creating from what is emerging, and that involves a different listening. So leadership today is a function of listening and following and being obedient to this, instead of leading from something that you know and having all the answers. Leadership is about letting go and letting something come. Leadership means to die. Something in me needs to die to step across this threshold from this territory, from this year to the next year. So take an insight from what I've said here. Look at the underground of your goals. Look at the in-depth part, the foundations from which your goals are stemming. See if you can develop the capacity for observing and witnessing current reality compared to where your goals are. Don't compare it to what you know. Compare it to what you want to create. Each goal is a separate, unique universe, a little unit of learning that authentically unfolds a path to it. And you can follow it or not. But you have to trust the process. So let's have a great 2011.